Life does not always give us softness. The world is not always kind. There are moments when mercy cannot be extended, moments when the self demands that you cut away illusions, weakness, and false comforts. Without mercy does not mean cruelty to others, but ruthless honesty with yourself. It is the courage to face your shadow, to discipline your instincts, and to rise beyond excuses. The path of individuation requires strength, not the fragile strength of comfort, but the fierce strength of truth. To live without mercy is to hold yourself accountable, to burn away what no longer serves you, and to embody the wholeness that your destiny demands. Mercy toward excuses is the quietest form of self-betrayal. Excuses may feel small, harmless, even reasonable, but beneath their surface lies a great deception. Each time you listen to them, each time you grant them mercy, you trade away a piece of your destiny. Excuses are the masks your shadow wears to keep you weak. They come dressed as logic, as self-care, as tomorrow will be better. But in truth, they are the chains that bind you to mediocrity. When you tell yourself, I am too tired, I don't have time, or I'll start when the conditions are right, you are not speaking truth, you are speaking the language of the shadow. The shadow does not want growth because growth threatens its power. It wants you to remain small, dependent, and unseen. And when you show mercy to these whispers, you surrender your strength. You lower your sword and allow yourself to be conquered by illusions. To live without mercy toward excuses is to recognize them instantly and cut them down before they grow roots. An excuse given mercy today becomes a habit tomorrow, and a destiny lost forever. This is why Jung taught that individuation requires brutal honesty. You must face yourself in the mirror and say, I see the lie, and I will not allow it. The self demands accountability. It does not thrive on comfort, it thrives on truth. If you wish to live fully, you must treat every excuse as an enemy of the soul, not with hatred but with clarity. When the thought arises, I cannot, you must respond, I will. When the whisper says, later, you must reply, now. When the mind clings to fear, you must step forward into action. Mercy is sacred when given to others, but to extend it to your excuses is to abandon yourself. And there is no greater betrayal than turning against your own potential. True strength is born when you strip away every justification and stand naked before the truth. Either you act or you decay. To betray your excuses is to honor yourself. To destroy them without mercy is to choose destiny over deception. The shadow is the part of yourself you do not wish to see, the impulses you deny, the weaknesses you hide, the fears you bury. It lurks in silence, shaping your choices in ways you do not realize. You may cover it with masks of politeness, with the illusion of control, with the appearance of strength, but it remains alive within you, waiting for a moment of weakness to surface. To live truthfully, you cannot avoid it. You cannot charm it, bargain with it, or beg it to leave you in peace. The shadow must be confronted directly without mercy. When you deny the shadow, it does not disappear. It grows stronger in secret. It seeps into your words, poisons your habits, and sabotages your dreams. It turns your excuses into truths, your fears into limits, and your wounds into chains. Many live their entire lives as slaves to this unseen master, never realizing that the enemy is not outside, but within. Jung taught that what we do not make conscious returns to us as fate. And fate is merciless if you refuse to face what is hidden. To confront the shadow directly is to look into the darkest corners of your being and say, I see you. You are mine. You will not rule me. It requires courage, because the shadow will show you parts of yourself you would rather forget: envy, cowardice, selfishness, laziness, fear. But do not mistake this confrontation as punishment. It is liberation. For when you accept the shadow as part of your totality, it loses its power to control you from the dark. Its energy can then be transformed into strength, creativity, and clarity. Avoidance is a form of mercy you cannot afford. To avoid the shadow is to remain divided, half alive, always at war with yourself. To confront it is to reclaim your wholeness. Imagine a warrior who refuses to look at his opponent. He will be struck down without even knowing from where the blow came. But the warrior who faces his enemy directly, without fear, has already begun to win. Do not wait for the shadow to ambush you. Seek it out, meet it in the battlefield of your own mind. Ask yourself hard questions. Where am I lying to myself? Where am I weak? Where am I afraid to admit the truth? This honesty is ruthless, but it is also the doorway to freedom. The shadow does not vanish when you confront it, but it transforms. Its darkness becomes fuel. Its rage becomes courage. Its hunger becomes drive. By meeting it directly, you awaken a deeper self that no longer hides, no longer divides, but stands whole and unshakable. To confront your shadow without mercy is to claim your birthright, the right to live in truth, free from illusions, alive in your totality. That is the beginning of real power. Discipline is not punishment, nor is it the denial of pleasure. Discipline is the purest form of self-respect, the living proof that you value your existence enough to shape it with intention. When you choose discipline, you are saying to yourself, I am worthy of order. I am worthy of growth. I am worthy of the life I desire. Without discipline, your potential rots in the soil of neglect. With discipline, it blossoms into strength, clarity, and wholeness. Most people treat themselves with subtle disrespect, though they do not see it. They sleep aimlessly, eat without awareness, waste hours on distractions, and then wonder why their lives lack meaning. This is not failure of ability, it is failure of respect. For to respect yourself is to hold your life sacred, and what is sacred must be honored with structure. Discipline is that structure. It is the invisible architecture that allows your destiny to be built stone by stone. Jung reminds us that the psyche longs for wholeness, but wholeness cannot be reached by drifting. The unconscious must be integrated, the ego must be disciplined, and the self must be given a vessel worthy of its fire. Discipline is how the vessel is forged. Every repeated act of order, rising early, nourishing the body, training the mind, honoring your commitments, is a declaration to the unconscious. I am ready to contain more of who I truly am. The undisciplined person shows mercy to every impulse, every distraction, every fleeting desire. They scatter their energy in 1,000 directions, never strong enough to complete anything. This is not freedom, it is slavery to chaos. True freedom is not the absence of rules, it is the ability to rule yourself. That is why discipline feels hard at first, but liberating later. Through discipline, you no longer live as a victim of moods or circumstances. You become sovereign over your actions, and that sovereignty builds an unshakable confidence. Discipline is also the bridge between intention and embodiment. Many dream of greatness, but dreams alone dissolve into the wind. Discipline is what anchors the dream into reality. It is the daily act of showing up when it would be easier not to, of choosing growth over comfort, of saying yes to your higher self and no to your lower impulses. This is not cruelty, this is love in its most powerful form. When you practice discipline, you are not depriving yourself, you are investing in yourself. You are proving that your life is worthy of care, that your goals deserve loyalty, that your destiny demands devotion. And in this devotion, the soul grows strong. To live without discipline is to betray yourself. To live with discipline is to respect yourself so deeply that you refuse to abandon your potential. Discipline, then, is not a burden, it is the highest honor you can give to your own existence. The ego is the part of us that says I. It craves recognition, control, comfort, and superiority. It measures life in comparison to others, always seeking to prove itself, always protecting its fragile image. Yet the ego, for all its noise, is only a fragment of who we truly are. The self vast, eternal, rooted in both the conscious and unconscious, is far greater. It is the totality of our being, the archetype of wholeness. And for transformation to occur, the ego must bow to the self. The tragedy of many lives is that the ego refuses to bend. It clings to illusions of control, insists that it knows best, and resists the deeper calling of the soul. The ego seeks comfort while the self demands growth. The ego seeks approval while the self demands authenticity. The ego seeks safety while the self demands truth. When the ego rules unchecked, life becomes shallow, filled with fear, pettiness, and endless comparison. It is like a servant pretending to be king, sitting on a throne too heavy for it to bear. To bow the ego to the self is not to destroy it, but to place it in proper service. The ego has value, it gives us individuality, helps us navigate the world, protects our boundaries. But when it resists the self, it becomes a tyrant, keeping us small, afraid, and blind. The act of bowing is therefore an act of alignment, the smaller self humbling itself before the greater self, the personality surrendering to the totality of being. This surrender requires ruthlessness. The ego will fight to keep its illusions. It will justify laziness, excuse dishonesty, cling to pride, and resist change. It will whisper, "You are fine as you are. Do not challenge yourself. Do not risk. Do not grow." To live truly, you must strip away these lies without mercy. You must force the ego to kneel, to admit that it is not the ruler, but the servant. Only then can the self guide your destiny. The moment the ego bows, clarity emerges. You no longer act to please others, but to honor truth. You no longer cling to comfort, but to purpose. You no longer shrink from the shadow, but integrate it as part of your wholeness. In this posture of humility, paradoxically, you become powerful because the power is no longer a mask worn by the ego, but the authentic radiance of the self shining through. Think of it as a vessel. The ego alone is too small to contain the vastness of your spirit. When it refuses to bow, it cracks under the weight. But when it surrenders, when it allows the self to pour through it, it becomes strong enough to carry meaning, purpose, and presence. To let the ego bow is to say, I release my need to appear strong, and I choose to become truly strong. I release my need to be admired, and I choose to become authentic. I release my need to control, and I choose to be guided by the deeper wisdom within me. Without this act of surrender, the ego lives in illusion. With it, the self awakens and life becomes aligned, grounded, and whole. The ego was never meant to be the master, it was meant to serve, and when it bows, the true king, the self, finally takes the throne. Chaos is the raw material of transformation. It is the storm before clarity, the breaking of old forms, the collapse of familiar patterns. Most people fear chaos because it strips them of certainty and control. They see it as destruction. But Jung teaches us that the psyche does not grow through comfort, it grows through the very fires of chaos, where the old self is burned away and the new self is forged. When chaos arrives in your life, it feels overwhelming. Your plans fall apart, your routines dissolve, your identity feels shaken. You say, "Why is this happening to me?" But if you look deeper, you will see that chaos is not your enemy. It is the unconscious rising to the surface, demanding to be recognized. It is the parts of yourself you have ignored, denied, or repressed, breaking through the prison of order you built around them. Without chaos, these forces would remain buried and you would remain stagnant. Yet chaos alone does not create transformation. Left unchecked, it can consume you, leaving only ashes. That is why chaos must pass through fire, the fire of consciousness, discipline, and will. Fire purifies. Fire transforms raw material into something refined. When you face chaos without running, when you carry it into the flames of awareness, it ceases to be destructive and becomes creative. It reshapes you into something stronger, more whole, more aligned with yourself. Think of metal in a forge. In its raw state, it is hard but brittle, easily broken. Only when it is thrust into fire does it become malleable. Only when the blacksmith strikes it again and again does it take on form. So it is with you. The fire of chaos softens your rigid patterns, melts your illusions, and gives you the chance to be reshaped into something higher. Every blow of suffering, every strike of loss or struggle, is the hammer that shapes your soul into strength. The ego fears this process because it means surrendering control. It means allowing parts of yourself to die. But the self demands it, because only through this passage can your wholeness be born. In mythology, the hero always faces fire, the dragon's breath, the burning trial, the descent into hell. These are symbols of the chaos we must endure. And always, the hero emerges transformed, not by avoiding the fire, but by walking through it. You must understand, fire does not destroy what is real in you. It only destroys what is false. The masks, the excuses, the fragile illusions, these are burned away. What remains is pure, essential, unbreakable. To fear chaos is to cling to weakness. To embrace chaos and pass through the fire is to claim your true strength. So when your life feels torn apart, when chaos surrounds you, do not beg for it to end too soon. Stand in the fire, let it purify you. Trust that your soul knows what it is doing, for on the other side of chaos, through fire, lies rebirth. Time is the most relentless force in existence. It does not stop, it does not pause, it does not bend itself to our excuses. Time shows no pity. It flows forward with or without us, carrying away opportunities, moments, and chances that will never return. You cannot bargain with it, you cannot delay it, and you cannot beg for mercy. Each second that passes is gone forever, and with it, a piece of your life. The tragedy is that so many live as though time will wait for them. They procrastinate, they delay, they indulge in distractions, thinking that tomorrow will always arrive with the same promise as today. But time is merciless. Tomorrow is never guaranteed. What you do not seize today may vanish into the abyss of the past, never to return. The shadow of regret grows not from what time took from you, but from what you refused to do while time still offered the chance. Jung would remind us that the self exists beyond time, yet it is through time that the self must manifest in the world. The ego, however, clings to comfort, pretending there will always be more time. It whispers lies like, "I will start when I feel ready. I will change when the moment is right." But the moment is never right, it is only now or never. To wait is to betray yourself, to hand over your life to the merciless flow that will not stop for your hesitation. Time's indifference is its lesson. Because it has no pity, you must create urgency within yourself. You must look at each hour as a sacred fire that burns quickly and cannot be rekindled. Wasting time is wasting life itself. To live fully is to seize the present, to pour yourself into action before the chance dissolves into memory. Do not mistake time's cruelty for punishment. It is, in truth, the great awakener. Its unyielding flow forces you to confront the truth that your days are limited, that death waits for all. This is not meant to terrify you, but to empower you. Mortality gives meaning. The fact that time shows no pity is the very reason your choices matter. So stand up against delay. Do not ask time for mercy. It has none to give. Instead, align yourself with its rhythm. Act now, while breath fills your lungs, while strength fills your body, while opportunities still lie within reach. Let urgency sharpen your focus. Let it drive you beyond excuses, beyond hesitation. For when you respect the mercilessness of time, you become merciless toward your own weakness. Time shows no pity, but if you master its lesson, you will live without regret. The archetype of the warrior lives deep within the human psyche. It is the image of discipline, courage, and unshakable willpower. But make no mistake, the warrior does not survive by softness or hesitation. The warrior demands ruthlessness, not cruelty toward others, but ruthlessness toward weakness, illusions, and excuses. The warrior within you is not here to comfort you. It is here to lead you into battle with the parts of yourself that would rather stay asleep. To awaken the warrior archetype is to enter into a sacred contract with your destiny. It is to declare, "I will not betray myself by surrendering to ease." The warrior knows that life is struggle, and struggle demands strength. Strength cannot grow where compromise reigns. If you are merciful toward laziness, indulgence, or fear, you weaken your own spirit. Every excuse left unchallenged, every weakness tolerated, is like a chink in the warrior's armor, leaving you vulnerable to defeat. Ruthlessness, in the Jungian sense, is not blind aggression. It is the clarity to see what must be cut away and the resolve to cut it without hesitation. It is the refusal to negotiate with the shadow's endless tricks. The warrior archetype recognizes that your greatest enemy is not the world outside, but the cowardice within the voice that whispers, "You've done enough, you can stop now, take the easier path." That voice is death disguised as comfort. The warrior answers it with fire, saying, "I will not yield." In myths and legends, the warrior faces trials that seem impossible: monsters, dragons, armies greater than himself. These are not just stories. They are symbols of the forces you must confront in your own psyche: doubt, fear, chaos, inertia. And just like the hero of legend, you cannot defeat them by showing pity. The dragon of fear must be slain. The chains of weakness must be broken. The shadows must be cut down with the sword of awareness and action. Ruthlessness is not about hatred. It is about alignment with truth. To be ruthless is to protect your highest purpose, to refuse to let anything, not even your own comfort, stand in the way of your becoming. The warrior archetype teaches us that destiny belongs not to the passive, but to the relentless. The world respects the one who moves forward with unwavering resolve, because such a person radiates the power of the self-made flesh. So you must ask yourself, will you live as a victim of hesitation, granting mercy to the very forces that enslave you? Or will you embody the archetype of the warrior, cutting away everything that keeps you small? The choice is always yours, but the warrior within you waits, sword in hand, to see if you are worthy of the battle. To honor the warrior is to live without compromise, without pity for weakness, and without apology for your strength. The archetype demands ruthlessness because only ruthlessness can guard the path to your highest self. Comfort is the most seductive enemy of the soul. Unlike fear or pain, it does not confront you openly. It whispers gently. It lulls you into a soft bed of illusions, convincing you that nothing more is required of you. Comfort says, "You are safe here. Do not move, do not struggle, stay as you are." And so, without resistance, many surrender their strength, their growth, and their destiny. Carl Jung taught that what we do not confront in ourselves becomes our greatest chain. Comfort is one such chain. It does not wound you suddenly. It drains you slowly, like water wearing down stone. The man who lives in constant struggle may grow weary, but he grows stronger. The man who lives in constant comfort weakens quietly until his spirit is hollow. What appears as peace is, in truth, decay disguised as rest. Comfort feeds the ego while starving the self. The ego seeks pleasure, safety, and familiarity, always preferring the known over the unknown. But the self demands expansion, risk, transformation. When you cling to comfort, you deny the self its journey. You hide from the fire that purifies, from the challenges that awaken your true nature. In this way, comfort becomes betrayal, a betrayal of the very potential written into your being. The archetypes of the warrior, the hero, and the seeker do not awaken in comfort. They awaken in trial, in struggle, in the wilderness where nothing is certain. Growth requires friction. Muscles tear before they grow, the psyche shatters before it is reborn, and the soul must descend into discomfort before it can rise into strength. To reject discomfort is to reject transformation itself. And yet, the modern world worships comfort. We are surrounded by machines, luxuries, distractions that numb us into submission. Every craving can be satisfied instantly, every pain dulled with a pill or a screen. But ask yourself, does this abundance liberate you, or does it cage you? Do you command comfort, or does it command you? The truth is that most live not as warriors, but as prisoners, chained by the softness they mistake for happiness. To overcome comfort, you must become ruthless. You must train yourself to step willingly into challenge, to choose the harder path, to embrace discomfort as a teacher. Each time you resist comfort's call, you strengthen the will. Each time you deny ease in favor of growth, you awaken the self. The warrior within you does not sleep in softness. It sharpens its blade in the fire of struggle. Comfort is the greatest enemy not because it harms you directly, but because it convinces you that you are not in danger. It kills without violence, leaving behind a shell of what could have been. Do not make peace with it, rise above it. Treat comfort as the battlefield where your destiny is decided. Only by rejecting comfort can you claim the life that was meant for you. Integrity is the backbone of the self, the foundation upon which true strength is built. To live with integrity means that your inner world and outer actions are aligned, that your words carry the same weight as your deeds, that your spirit is not divided against itself. When integrity is present, there is no confusion, no fragmentation, only clarity and wholeness. But integrity allows for no compromise. The moment you betray it, even in the smallest degree, you weaken the structure of your being. Compromise in matters of integrity is far more dangerous than outright failure. Failure can teach, awaken, and harden you, but the compromise of integrity rots you quietly from the inside. You may still appear strong, still appear successful, still appear confident to the world, but beneath the surface, something sacred begins to fracture. And once that fracture is ignored, it spreads until your very soul becomes divided, unable to hold the weight of your destiny. Carl Jung understood that wholeness is the true aim of the human journey. Wholeness demands honesty with oneself. If you compromise, if you allow deceit, self-betrayal, or half-truths to guide you, you are not moving toward wholeness but toward fragmentation. The man without integrity cannot stand firmly in the world because he does not even stand firmly within himself. He becomes a puppet of circumstance, swayed by convenience, easily conquered by weakness. Integrity requires sacrifice. It will demand that you choose the harder road, that you speak truth when silence would be safer, that you honor your values when betrayal would bring you gain. This is why so few possess it fully. But integrity is also the source of unshakable power. A man or woman who cannot be bought, cannot be bent, cannot be moved from their inner law, such a person commands respect without asking for it. Their presence alone becomes weighty because others sense that there are no fractures within them. To live without compromise is not to live without mistakes. Mistakes are human. Compromise, however, is a decision, a deliberate choice to betray what you know is right. And once you make peace with compromise, you open the door to 1,000 small betrayals, each one eroding your soul until nothing of substance remains. Integrity is ruthless. It does not negotiate with shadows. It does not permit half measures. It demands that you burn away falsehoods, that you stand firm even when trembling, that you choose alignment with your highest self over the approval of others. When you live this way, you discover a strength greater than comfort, greater than fear, greater even than desire, the strength of being whole. Integrity leaves no room for compromise because compromise is death to the self. If you would walk the path of destiny, if you would embody the fullness of who you are meant to become, then let your integrity be absolute. Stand by it, even when it costs you. Protect it, even when it isolates you. For the one who refuses to compromise stands not alone, but with the eternal power of the self at their back. Without mercy, the self emerges in its fullness. Mercy, when misapplied, becomes indulgence, a soothing of the ego's weakness, rather than a call to its transformation. To constantly excuse yourself, to constantly forgive your laziness, your hesitation, your compromises, is to keep the true self buried beneath layers of softness. Growth is not born from pity. It is born from the ruthless demand that the potential within you be realized, no matter how much it costs. Carl Jung spoke of individuation, the process of becoming whole. This journey is not gentle. It does not stroke your ego or coddle your fears. It is a fire that burns away illusions, a crucible that tests your endurance, a mirror that shows you your shadow with relentless honesty. If you approach this journey with mercy toward your excuses, with leniency toward your weaknesses, you will never reach the depths where transformation occurs. The self will remain hidden, muffled by compromise. The fullness of the self requires discipline, clarity, and a fierce willingness to cut away everything false. It is not an act of cruelty to deny mercy to the parts of you that weaken and deceive. It is an act of love for your higher destiny. To say, I will no longer excuse this, I will no longer accept less than what I am capable of, I will no longer live divided, this is the kind of ruthlessness that births wholeness. True strength is not found in sparing yourself the weight of responsibility, but in carrying it until it reshapes you. The self emerges when you strip away illusion, when you endure the discomfort that most avoid, when you meet your shadow and do not flinch. In those moments, the false identities you once clung to begin to die, and what is left is raw, unbreakable essence. This is the self not fragmented, not diluted, but full, alive, and sovereign. To live without mercy toward the ego is to treat each day as a battlefield. You do not allow the mind to trick you into idleness. You do not allow the body to decay through neglect. You do not allow the soul to be silenced by fear. You confront, you demand, you rise. And though the process is harsh, though it may strip you of comfort, it leaves behind something greater than comfort: power, clarity, and wholeness. Without mercy, the self emerges in fullness, not because mercy is evil, but because mercy, when directed at weakness, prevents strength from being born. The warrior within you awakens when excuses are slaughtered, when softness is rejected, when the fire of discipline burns without end. It is in this uncompromising heat that your truest form is forged. To live without mercy is not to live without compassion, it is to refuse weakness, lies, and stagnation. It is to rise each day with fire in your eyes, cutting away what holds you back. In doing so, you honor the self, you embody your destiny, and you live as one who cannot be broken.